Hello everyone, I'm Jake. Welcome to my channel and the topic for today's video, one of the hottest and most popular topic right now, AIPP, Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. A lot of you are looking for the answers for this particular program. Now there are a lot of confusions and doubts and questions related to this program, particularly because it has been projected as the shortest and the simplest route to getting the Canadian PR. But is it actually true? That's what we are going to do in this video. I'm gonna clear all the doubts, myths, facts and questions related to this program. So let's quickly get into the nitty gritty of AIPP. Starting with the basics, what is AIPP? AIPP is Atlantic Immigration Pilot Programs launched by the federal government in coordination with the Atlantic provinces. Which are the Atlantic provinces? Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island. These provinces are located on the east coast of Canada. Now we are clear about the basic of AIPP, what AIPP is. So the question comes, what is the need for AIPP? Who needs it? Why was it launched? When we have Express Entry program, when we have a PNP program to come to Canada as PR. So I'll try and explain in the simplest possible way so that you understand it once and for all. All the candidates who apply their visa through Express Entry or PNP, they go and settle in the most popular cities: Toronto, Vancouver, Manitoba, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec, even Calgary and Edmonton. Because these are the cities with the maximum number of jobs, and these cities already have the existing population of immigrants. So all the newcomers, they get the community feel also, and they easily get the jobs. And these cities obviously are the most popular cities of Canada. Their transportation system is well organized, everything is connected. Now because of this, there are two groups which are created. On one hand we have group 1, on second hand we have group 2. Group 1 is basically all the employers who are operating in the Atlantic provinces. Now since all the new immigrants have located themselves in all these popular cities, nobody goes to the Atlantic provinces. So the employers in Atlantic provinces, where the population is already low and aging, there is a lack of skilled workers, and the employers are suffering in their businesses because they cannot increase the productivity. So they need skilled immigrants. On the second hand, we have group of individuals and candidates who could not either qualify for the Express Entry program or the PNP program or any other visa program because they couldn't score either in IELTS, or they couldn't get the CLB score, or they could not get their CRS required for the Express Entry, or educational background or fund requirement, etc, etc. Whatever reason, they did not get their PR. So these candidates are still waiting to get the PR. So we have group 1 and group 2. So the federal government got together with the Atlantic provincial bodies and launched a program called AIPP to bridge the gap between these two groups so they can come together and fulfill each other's needs. They need immigrants and these immigrants need the Canadian PR. As simple as that, and the birth of AIPP. On the surface level, everything looks very simple, very clear and very promising, like we have found a final solution to our visa problems. Now let's dig deep into it and find what lies beneath, layer by layer. Layer number 1, the basic program as a whole. What are the eligibility, what are the categories, what are the requirements, the whole process. I'll just explain it very quickly. So starting with the 3 categories in which you can apply for the AIPP program. Number 1, Atlantic High Skilled Program. Number 2, Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. And number 3, Atlantic International Graduate Program. All these 3 categories have their own requirements and eligibility criteria. For the sake of keeping the video short, I'm not gonna go through the individual requirements and eligibility criteria. I'm just gonna put the text here. You can pause the video and read for each categories. And for this purpose, let's go back because I need more space to fit in all the text. Number 1, Atlantic High Skilled Program. Here is the list. Number 2, Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Program. Here is the list. And number 3, Atlantic International Graduate Program. Here is the list. You can check all these 3. You can pause the video, read them, and then I'm going to resume the video. Let's keep it short and simple. Alright, so you have read all the eligibility criteria and requirements under all three categories, and as candidates who are applying from outside Canada, obviously there are only two categories available to you. One is the high skilled category and the other is the intermediate skilled categories. Let's now get on to the process. What is the actual process, how you go about it? So the first step is to get the job offer, the job letter. You have to find a designated employer for respective provinces, whichever province you select, whether it's Nova Scotia, whether it's New Brunswick, whether it's Newfoundland and Labrador or Prince Edward Island. A designated employer is basically an employer who has registered himself with that particular province in which his business is operating, and only that employer can give you the job offer letter on the basis of which you can apply for AIPP. You cannot directly apply for AIPP. You have to apply for AIPP along with your employer. To find the designated employer, you can go on the websites of the Atlantic provinces. They all have their own website where all the information is there, and the list of designated employers is also there. Now, one more important thing, when you go through the list of designated employers, it is not necessary that all of them are hiring right now. You will have to call up and find out if they are hiring or not. If they are, yes, send your resume and be specific what you want to do. Don't say that you can do anything. Whether you want to be an accountant, or make sure that your field of job is very specific when you speak to them. After the designated employer is satisfied with your resume, if it matches with the job requirement of their company, they will give you a job offer. The job offer does not need to be in the same field as your previous job. It can be different as well. Then you must meet the requirement of the job that has been offered to you as per the requirement of NOC, the National Occupation Classification. You can check the table here and see what all the classifications are as per the NOC and find yourself if you are eligible and fulfilling those requirements or not. Next step is to apply for the settlement plan for yourself and your family members who will be accompanying you. Your employer is going to help you and connect you to the service provider organization of that particular province to make this settlement plan. The service provider organization along with you will make an assessment of your and your family's needs and devise a settlement plan for you when you reach that particular Atlantic province. Once you get the settlement plan email, you send a copy to your employer and keep one copy for yourself. After you have received your settlement plan, the employer will then get you endorsed from that particular province. Once the province endorses you, submit your permanent residence application. You will receive a certificate of endorsement from your particular province. Make sure that you submit that certificate along with your PR application. Now, one important part of this whole process, if your employer specifies that he needs to urgently fulfill that job position, in that case you can apply for a work permit, which will be a process of I think 2 to 3 weeks. You don't really have to wait for your entire PR application to get processed. You can go to Canada and start working while your PR application is still in process. The work permit is valid for the entire period of 1 year, and you can only work for that employer who has sponsored your AIPP. So now we are clear about the process, the three categories, the eligibility requirement and all those things about the AIPP. Next, very important thing, of course, the funds. What are the required funds in case of AIPP? I have put in a table here on which you can find out as per your family size what would be the required fund that would apply to your particular situation. Alright, so now all the technical jargon, the requirements, eligibility criteria, the whole process is clear. Let's now get into the upsides and downsides of AIPP. Is it actually beneficial to you? Are you gonna really gain something out of it or not? Well, it totally depends on your situation and your requirements. So let's talk about the upsides first. In my opinion, number one is that when you leave your home country, you already have a job in hand. So when you come here with your family, you don't really have to go and hunt for a job. Apart from that, the service provider organization are gonna take care of your settlement. Basically what this settlement plan is that when you come here, everything will be taken care of: your housing, your child care benefits, education of your children, the language training if it's required, transportation. So you can easily settle into your new province, into your new life, and you can efficiently start your new job. Another important upside of AIPP is that the CLB requirement is only 4, unlike Express Entry or PNP where I think CLB is 7 or 8. In AIPP, you don't have to be scared of IELTS. I know some people are very scared of IELTS. In this case, CLB4 can be easily achieved in one go. Then in AIPP, the educational requirement is not as high like in express entry. Like, you don't really have to be a graduate or master's or anything, because there is no point system. You just have to have a high school diploma or a high school education. That would be sufficient as your educational qualification. Then you have already seen the table of funds required. I don't think so. The requirement of fund, depending on your family size, obviously is not as high as it is in express entry or PNP. Another advantage of AIPP over PNP program is that in this case, the designated employer do not have to go through the labor market impact assessment to get your job offer. So it will be much faster to get the job offer and easier as well. Now let's look at the numbers, the actual facts and the numbers related to this AIPP plan. Okay, I'll just read it quickly for you. According to statistics released by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, basically IRCC, 1,896 employers in the Atlantic Canada region have made 3,729 job offers through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program since its launch in 2017. And 2,535 principal applicants and their families have been approved for permanent residence. Canada is extending its Atlantic immigration pilot to December 2021 now, and they want to reach the number of 4,000 skilled immigrants in these 4 different Atlantic provinces. So basically, the IRCC along with these Atlantic provinces are working really hard to create benefits for the employers in the Atlantic provinces and the candidates, those who are skilled but they still can't get their PR through express entry and PNP. So they are trying very hard to bring them together. Another important announcement which IRCC has made here, and what I understood out of it, is that employers in healthcare sector will be able to hire internationally trained nurses to work as continuing care and home care support workers in order to fill job vacancies, which means that now the internationally trained nurses who have not trained in Canada can also come and directly start working. So now we have understood all the upsides and the good points of AIPP. Let's now talk about the downside and the challenging part of AIPP as a plan. What happens basically is that the number of applications which are allowed per province is 500. So for 4 provinces is total 2000 applications, and in those 2000 applications you would also be fighting with the international graduate students who are also applying for these jobs for these provinces. Now let's say that your particular job type only is available in 2 provinces, not available in the other 2 provinces or in very limited number. So then again you're narrowed down to only 1000 spots. Now in those 1000 applications, you still have to find that designated employer in whose office that job vacancy is available, which matches with your resume. The major downside which I feel about the Atlantic provinces is the minimum wage rate. Where I live in Ontario, the minimum wage rate is $14 per hour. But in the Atlantic provinces, the maximum to maximum you can get is 11.5 per hour, or in rare cases $12 per hour. So I think which is also a very less wage rate, minimum wage rate, that you will have to get used to. I'm sure the accommodation and the other expenses would also be lower, but the wage rate is definitely low. Since I don't have any personal experience, but as far as the information and data is available, I think even the transportation will not be as efficient and effective as it is in the major cities like Toronto or Vancouver. So go with an open mind that you will have to follow strict transportation schedules, otherwise you will miss your buses and trains, or you will have to buy a car. One more important point is that when you come to the Atlantic province and when you get your PR, there would be a certain amount of time when you have to stay in that province. You cannot get your PR and just leave and come to the most popular cities in Canada. Only when your employer who sponsored your entire application, when that employer gives you the NOC, then only you will be able to allow to work in the other provinces of Canada. Till then, Atlantic province is your home. You stay there and work there. So now we have discussed all the upsides and downsides related to the AIPP. The ball is in your court now. You have to play the shot. You have to decide whether this plan is suitable for you and your family or not. Now, if you still have doubts or questions related to this program, put them in the comment section and I'll do more research and try and answer your question. Till next time, I love you all and see you soon.